Connecticut has some representation in the Trump White House, most notably Linda McMahon, the education secretary, but there are a few others. I sat down with a young man from the town of Orange who graduated from Fairfield University in May and is now part of the Trump team. And joining me now is Dominick Lombardi. And Dominick, good to see you here in the program, and congrats on your new job.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So explain to me exactly what your new job is.
So my job is I work in the rural development mission area of the USDA. So there's several mission areas because it's a major department, and a lot of people think it just has to do with farms, but it has to do with utilities, housing, manufacturing, and rural development really is the economic backbone of rural America. If you want to have a project done in rural America, whether that's housing, building housing in rural America, or if you're a dairy farmer and you want to expand your production and have a milk barn built, you're coming through our department. Or say you have utility services, broadband, 5G, all the things that are really important to be brought out to rural America, we help provide the lending and the funding for those projects.
And you were appointed by President Trump. How does that work? Does he call you himself, or does someone call you?
The president actually has, I believe it's somewhere around 5,000 appointments to make. So he doesn't personally give a call to everyone. However, I have had a phone call from Donald Trump in the past. But what normally happens is he has liaisons, White House liaisons, and they meet with you and then meet directly with his team, and then there's an appointment made. So though I've had many occasions with President Trump, the actual phone call did come from the White House, but it was from his people, not necessarily him himself.
What was it like when you got that call?
Well, I was sitting at home finishing up a final for college. I just graduated from Fairfield U this past May, and the phone came up and it said White House. And so I didn't think that was spam, although we are getting a lot of those nowadays. And I picked up the call, and they said, this is the White House. We have gotten a recommendation for you, and the president would like to appoint you to his administration. And after having like a couple of moments of just brief shock, you know, for a kid who's only 22 years old to get a call to be appointed to the Trump administration, I quickly said yes. And then they said, well, we'll have a follow-up call with you tomorrow and brief you on everything. And then I got to go out and tell my family, and there was a lot of celebrating, and it was a really surreal and unforgettable experience.
That's a good first job to have out of college.
Yeah, I don't think it gets much better than that.
What's your history with President Trump?
So I have met the president numerous times, but I really got involved kind of at the start of his 2024 campaign. So I have been a supporter of the president's since I was in middle school when he first ran, a vocal supporter of his as well. But being young and going into school and whatnot, you know, you're not really able to do much in politics. But as I got older and I started getting involved in high school, I started attending town committee meetings here in Orange and really, you know, divulging into politics. The national scene always enamored me, and I really subscribe to a lot of what the president stands for. And so I made it kind of a goal of mine to say, hey, I want to help out on this 2024 campaign. So I started attending rallies and then started meeting people in the administration, or on the campaign rather. And then I got invited to an event at Bedminster, actually the night he had gotten convicted, and he flew back and spoke to the world after his conviction. It was the first time a former president had ever been convicted. And I was there, and it was at that night where they had heard a lot about me and said that they wanted me to join his finance committee. So I then joined his finance committee, which helped fund the 2024 campaign, and that led me to go to a lot of events, Mar-a-Lago. I've had dinner at Mar-a-Lago with President Trump, a bunch of really unbelievable and surreal experiences, including being at Palm Beach on election night. Which is something I'll never forget.
What is President Trump like behind the scenes?
Exactly like he's like on the scene. He is what you see is what you get with him. A lot of times in politics, and I would know, being in politics, you get people who act a certain way in the public persona, and then when they're out of the public light, they act another way. This is not true for Donald Trump. President Trump is exactly who you see. He's authentic, he's real. If you do a good job, he rewards you, and he's very big supporter of you. But he'll also tell you when you need to improve a little bit.
Have you talked about Connecticut with him at all? We're a blue state.
Briefly, I had mentioned that he should come out to Connecticut in the 2024 cycle, but he chose not to, and that's perfectly fine. That's his choice. But yeah, the president loves everyone, if you come from a red state or a blue state. And he recognizes that even though the state of Connecticut didn't necessarily support him in the election, that doesn't mean that there aren't great people in the state, and he is the president for all 50 states.
So your background is farming. Tell me about that.
So when I really could start to talk, I wanted to get a farm, and I would ask my parents, Mom, Dad, can we get X? Can we get Y? Can we get Z? And when I was young, the answer was often no. But then, growing up a little bit more in grade school, my father came to me and he said, well, listen, if you do a good job in school and you get good marks, I'll get you a small chicken coop. And so I held up my end of the deal, and then I said, okay, Dad, pay up. It's time to hold up your end of the bargain. And he did. And so it started up with a small little chicken coop in my backyard, and then that just slowly grew into a much larger coop. Chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, gardens, sheep, working on farms around the state in my town of Orange, which has over 14 working farms in the town of Orange. And I really just became enamored in it, which then led me to choose to study agriculture at the Trumbull Agricultural and Biotechnology Center in Trumbull, Connecticut, where I was a member of the Future Farmers of America Association, the FFA, and I actually was in leadership all 4 years, serving as freshman representative, sentinel, treasurer, and then president of the organization, as well as in my senior year during the pandemic, serving as the barn manager, which was the student representative who oversaw all the facilities on the farm there. And I just really loved farming, and it's something that I'll always hold with me.
What are your career aspirations? What's your dream job?
Well, I would say my dream job is to give back to my country and my state and my town. I really love public service. I think it's something that is certainly nowadays a little turbulent. People might not want to go into it because of the divide and whatnot, but I don't really view it that way, Dennis. I really want to give back to this country. My family has been so fortunate. I come from a family of Italian immigrants that came over several generations ago. I actually had a farm on the Branford Hill in Connecticut. And we've just been so fortunate. And I really would like to devote my life to, helping people and advancing the values of freedom, liberty, and justice, which this country was founded upon.
So you'd want to run for office, perhaps?
We'll see. I like to keep the door open. I would say that the opportunities that I have right now in the Trump administration are really unbelievable, especially at such a young age. However, if my state or my town needed me, and there was an opportunity where I could help leave the town or the state better off than I found it, I would certainly entertain that thought.
I've watched that show, Designated Survivor. How many steps down from the secretary are you?
It's a great show with Keith Sutherland. I would hope, though, that we never experience that.
Of course, yeah.
But I am a couple of steps down from the secretary, but I will tell you that Brooke Rollins is one of the hardest working members of the Trump administration. She's hard to keep up with. She is crisscrossing the country, getting out to farms all over the United States of America. Just this past month, we had Secretary Kennedy at the Ag Building, and she negotiated a deal with Secretary Kennedy to get food dyes out of ice cream by 2026. She's had Secretary Hegseth, Attorney General Bondi, Secretary Noem, Peter Navarro, and several other congressmen and senators with the Ag Security as National Security, which is really about kicking the Chinese out of the farmlands. We have a lot of farmlands right around military bases that are owned by the Chinese, and we view that as a problem, as well as protecting the homeland and ensuring that our agricultural land and the vital rural America is here for generations to come.
Well, we wish you certainly the best of luck. I know it took a while to get you in here because you had to get White House approval, so we appreciate that. Dominick Lombardi.
Dennis.
Your best of luck.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
Have a good day.
And when we come back, the amazing story of a cancer vaccine developed right here in Connecticut.